Always, Chris. Always, Chris.
Catchy, Paula. It's too catchy.
Always, Chris. What's up, Solo? It's been a minute. Jesus, we haven't done something for like 8 months. This is ridiculous.
They say the 8 months is a charm. So I'm hoping for a lot of viewership today. Yeah, it's just good to be back with you. To be perfectly honest, I missed you. I missed this. I missed us. Yeah. I missed our thing. Right? So it feels good. Feels good.
I have to agree. Well, welcome everyone to Keeping You Wise by Keeping It Real, where we bring authentic and real conversations to fuel the soul that you can share with others. This is our 18th episode. And today's topic is from pressure to power, navigating stress and knowing your worth. And I think all of us can feel that and are dealing with that. And of course, if you know, I'm joined with my co-host here, known as Solo, Chris Solomon. So Chris, how you been doing?
I've been good. I've had ups. I've had downs. I've had some hard downs, as you know. I've had some good ups, as we can talk about. And everything in between. Life has been lifing. How about you?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Life's been lifing. I think that's what I would say. Yeah, life has definitely been lifing. But before we jump into our topic, because we got a lot to talk about today, I just got to put these disclaimers out there that we are not therapists and will not offer any medical advice. We are not trained, qualified, or able to diagnose or treat any form of mental illness or disorder. And some topics may be triggering. So the purpose of this video cast is to have real and authentic conversation that provides wisdom to us all. Definitely interact with us via chat. If you're on YouTube, drop it in the chat. If you're on LinkedIn, drop a comment. We'll respond. If you're on IG, definitely engage in the chat. And so, Chris, why don't we just go ahead and, of course, subscribe to our channels, right? I got to say that, too. The Life Coach Sensei, Keeping You Wise by Keeping It Real. All of that information is going to come up at the end. But let's jump right in because we got a lot to talk about today, Chris. Who we got joining us today?
We got a special guest today. But before we get to that, if you are joining us live or listening to this live later, please join the conversation. Say something in the chat. Make a comment. It matters. We want to hear your voice because your voice really does matter. So back to our special guest, but this evening we are joined by Diogenes Ayala, or as his friends know him as Dio, as part of the conversation tonight. However, this isn't your typical podcast.
Not at all.
Nope, we're having a conversation tonight. So it's kind of more of a panel than an interview, right? And asking each other questions because iron sharpens iron. And I can promise you that Dio and Paula are iron. So welcome to the podcast, Dio. Let the audience know a little bit about yourself.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me tonight. My name is Diogenes Ayala. I've been in the Homeland Security emergency management field for over 20 years, actually. Graduate of Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey with a master's degree in Homeland Defense Security. Wrote a thesis about counterterrorism. Proud member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. And I'm just happy to be here. I appreciate you guys having me.
We're glad that you're here. I think it's going to be some good conversation because stress is a topic right now. I think a lot of people are under stress. Our current environment's pretty intense right now, and all the changes and everything that's going on. You don't know day to day what's going on. And so to kick us off, I'm going to share some stats. I'm just going to bring some stuff up on the screen and just get your all thoughts on what you see on the screen. And the first one that I'm going to add here is some stress statistics. And so 49% of American adults experience significant daily stress. About half of us experience that. 1 in 10 workers overall report frequent mental distress. We want to know why we have a mental illness issue. And then 79.83% of software developers report burnout. And I can actually relate to this one because I was a software developer. That's how I started my career.
And
the amount of hours. Yeah.
Software development. And was it stressful?
Yes, that's why I don't do it. Yeah.
That's why
you get on-call pages that's when pagers were a thing back then. We didn't really have the cell phone thing, right? You get on-call pages, you have to be up at 2-3 o'clock in the morning trying to bring a system all the way back up. And you get woken up out of bed and you got to be like fully mentally prepared to be able to do that. So, I mean, you're working constantly. So yeah, it was extremely stressful. A lot of people don't know I actually have a software engineering background, but that's how my career started.
I've done it for a long time and I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. That's cool. That's super cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. I don't really miss it. That's why I do love tech, but I don't really miss that aspect of it.
Well, if I could jump in real quick. So this is 80% of charity workers reported workplace stress. Think about what's going on in the economy today, right? A lot of the benefits are not where they need to be. SNAP, right? Is having some issues with the government, right? So you think about a charity worker trying to ask for help or ask for help for others. That would be very stressful, taking on that kind of stress, not just from asking for the help or people coming to ask for help. I've had experience. My previous job, after we had a big tornado, taking on people's stress is hard, right? Because you don't have a way to sometimes release that stress, which I imagine we'll talk about here shortly. That's pretty telling statistic that 80% of charity workers have that workplace stress.
It's terrible.
Yes, and so I don't know why some of my words are cut off on this this slide here, but that circle represents Gen Xers, which is the dark green, and then Gen Z and millennials is the light green, and those are the stressors that they have. Interestingly enough, Gen Z and millennials have a higher rate of anxiety and depression diagnosis compared to older generations. Why do y'all think that is?
I think if I could jump in one more time, I think it's a different generational how you raise, right? So, for me, I'm a Gen Xer. We would play sports, have a winner and a loser. That was about it, right? There was no like winner and then winner plus or winner minus, right? Like you went home without a trophy. I think sometimes as generations change, we have more of that like everyone's a winner, right? Like so. True. If I don't win, like if I don't get something, then it causes me stress or I don't earn it, right? So now obviously Gen Zers are better with millennials are better with technology and other things that Gen Xers struggle with. But if I could throw my first volley out, I would imagine that's a big part of it. So kind of that generational differences, right? So obviously baby boomers went through a lot more with wars, right? Where Gen Xers didn't. Obviously Gen Xers had later in the Gen X life, we've had some wars, but I would say that's probably one of the factors.
To add to that, I'd probably also say we're giving our younger generations a steady stream of cigarettes, alcohol, cocaine in digital form with social media, with the dings and the bells and the whistles and the dopamine rushes at all hours of the night. So imagine if, we were blowing cigarette smoke in our babies' faces, since they were young. They'd obviously grow up and they'd have a lot of anxiety. Those dopamine pathways, the way that their brains are wired in the younger generations just aren't the same as, the 200 previous 1,000 years that we evolved as a human species.
That's a good point. I do think social media definitely has a hand in all of this for sure. So we just didn't have that much access to it. Yeah. But look at some of the most stressful jobs and least stressful jobs. So, it's some of these jobs. Now, some of them did surprise me because I didn't know some of these were that stressful, but it is interesting to see some of the stressors out there as far as the top 10. A lot of it does seem to be around either healthcare or the court, and then as you had mentioned earlier, the film and video editing, and then you have some of your least stressful jobs. But if you think about it, though, if this is on a scale of 0 to 100, we're still high. Even the least stressful are still high, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Agricultural engineers at the lowest and film and video editors at the highest. That's wild to me. I guess when you're an agricultural engineer, I would assume that you have a lot of outside work, sunlight, still working with your brain, but at the same time working with your hands. And then when you're a film or say a video editor, to your point, or to our earlier point, you're probably just sitting there on social media all the time, just editing videos, hoping for likes, hoping it goes viral, hoping for dings. Is this perfect? Is this awesome? Trying to Photoshop your life or your perception to perfection. And that could be probably super stressful, I imagine.
A lot of these jobs are public facing, right? So they're the most stressful. So, I know people that are law enforcement, state troopers, firefighters, like most of these jobs, except for film and video editing, I feel like a telephone operator, depending on the telephone operator, right? You're dealing with people at their worst, right? Yeah. So anesthesiologists, right? People are going to get surgery. Judges, obviously, you're determining someone's life, right? Yeah. With a stroke of a pen. Urologists are pretty obvious, right?
You know,
Gynecologists, obstetricians, like babies. So I think a lot of that stuff is really important. And you think about public safety telecommunications, so that's a 911 operator that's getting a call about, someone's hurt, I need help right away. You have to kind of determine what's going on there. So I could definitely see that these are highly stressful jobs because of the amount of life-saving that has to count to you, right? So if you're dealing with that every single day, someone's life in your hands, you're going to have stressful times and have to find ways to distress from those situations.
That's a good point. I wonder why like oncology isn't up there as opposed to like obstetrics and gynecology, right? Or urology. You would think that depending upon the prognosis of the patient, you'd be more or less stressed. But I think, to your point, like when it comes to babies and folks dealing with babies, that's probably a lot, because I know that was probably one of the more stressful couple of days of my life. The 2 times that my wife was in there giving birth, it was scary. So having to deal with that all the time, that'd be tough.
Yeah, and again, I think that, like, the medical field in general is stressful.
Yeah.
But when you have to deal with babies and surgeries and things of that nature, yeah, that could be a lot to take on, not just because of the health of that person, but obviously the liability of that individual doing that work. If they do it incorrectly, and there's a lot of repercussions for that as well. So that could be very stressful, right? No different than a 911 operator sending law enforcement or public safety to the wrong house because of whatever. And every second counts in all these categories. So,
Dio, let me ask you, because listening to your education, I didn't even know that those degrees existed. Like that was pretty impressive. But it sounds to me like you've built your career. You went to school to really learn how to deal with some of the situations that, say, the general public like us would literally lose our minds if they were thrust into it. So like that has to be stressful. Like it has to be a lot. Like, how do you manage that? How do you manage it of your people? Like, how do you take these super high pressure situations and keep your head and make good decisions?
Well, I mean, I think, well, first of all, yeah, I mean, Homeland Security kind of emergency management it's been around for a long time, right? So it's way before us, but civil defense was kind of the first thing. So after Pearl Harbor was kind of like protect your neighborhood, protect your state. So it's been around for quite a long time. After 9/11 is when you started hearing more about emergency management again, and obviously Homeland Security was based off of that. So like for people in the field of this work, you are looking at the worst things, right? So for example, every day I scour social media. I don't have social media anymore. I got rid of it, but I scour it looking for, stuff to write about, and or teach about, almost every day. But I also find myself at times having to disconnect to that and like go watch TV, right? Go for a walk. I've really focused on my fitness because my stress level is getting so high by looking at things that are troublesome, right? So, it's well known that some social media platforms are very negative and are looking to create, this a ripple effect across the board, where we are trying to see like, one side, black and white, and this kind of stress. So, if you're looking at that all the time, it can get to you. So my biggest advice is, have that vice to get away from that, right? So that might be like go fish. And like I said, I work out just to kind of get that out, and spend time with family. You got to find something else, because, you can't run from it. That's part of I think sometimes people say, well, I don't watch the news. Like, I don't know what's going on. Yes, but no, because sometimes the news is going to give you what's going to be happening here shortly, right? So you should have some clue of what's going on. We can't ostrich at this point, stick our head in the ground and just hope that it's going to go away. It's not going to go away. So, to keep your family safe, to keep, your loved ones safe as a leader, my team safe, I have to know what's going on. Therefore, I can create a plan in order for us to execute to keep everybody, in a great place.
Love that. What about you, Paula? I've always seen you keep a cool head in some crazy scenarios. Like, how do you do it?
It depends. I think of consequences. So how do I need to respond to certain things based on what the consequence would be and what my actions and behaviors would be? I'm probably not as calm as you always think I am. I think sometimes I do use discretion, because I can cut really harshly with my words. I am from Brooklyn and I am from Barbados. I mean, I can cut pretty harshly with my words, and I know that about me, and I don't want to hurt people's feelings and things like that. But I think for me, it's when you have kids, I think it changes too. Like when I had my kids, it's sort of you get put in positions where you have to make really quick decisions, or you have to think a little bit differently to get the outcome that you want. So for me, I'm always thinking about what are the consequences of what I say most times. And then for as far as like, I'm not in high stress situations like Dio. Like if I was in a situation where I had to save somebody's life or something like that, I mean, you do what you got to do and you handle that. But that's not something I have to do every day. I'm not the one in the hospital doing a heart surgery or anything like that. That's one thing we always used to say in corporate, right? We're not here saving lives. We're not doctors. We're not doing all of that, right? So I think the way I stay calm is just, I know how I respond, so I know myself. So I just make sure that I stay true to that as much as possible. But you've also seen me go off. So you've seen both sides of me, depending on what the situation is.
And if I may, just to kind of piggyback off that, I think sometimes people in these kind of professions, you always prepare for the worst, right? That's why. So when things happen, you can detach yourself. I mean, that's been my MO. I think of the worst. So if I see something that's bad or something's happening, I detach myself from that situation. I'm able to make quick decisions because I've already kind of thought through these things can happen, right? So sometimes really preparation will help you with stress because you prepared for whatever that might be. And it doesn't have to be a job like mine or a job like, if you're a law enforcement or firefighter, it could be just simple like, if you're a banker, right? Like what things can happen as a banker, what things can happen as a teacher, what things can happen, as a counselor, what things can happen as a plumber, right? If you prepare for those things now, you will be better off when those situations actually happen.
That's so good, Dio. I've heard someone say something similar, like when you know what hits the fan, you'll fall back to the level of your training or your preparedness. So it's like if you prepare for these things, like when you do have a loss, when you do have an emergency, when you do have a terrible thing happen, like have you prepared for that? I feel like the more unprepared folks are, the more people fall apart.
And I think in a leadership position, you have to be prepared, right? Because they're looking at the leader. And if I as a leader, or you guys as leaders are like, I don't know what to do, that's not the answer, right? Because people want comfort, and as leaders, we can't make mistakes, right? I made plenty of mistakes. Like I'm like, we're going to do this. And then actually it went the opposite direction, but you got to make a decision. You just can't sit on this, waiting. You got to make a decision right there on the spot, and you can always adjust that decision, but people are going to remember the fact that you didn't make a decision, right? Even if it's wrong, you say, hey, at least you tried, right? But a lot of leaders tend to just say, I got to think about it. And sometimes you can't think about it. You got to make a split decision and hope for the best. So,
bad news doesn't get better with age, and indecisiveness is never the answer.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny you said the exercise. So I don't remember where I read this or what I was watching, but essentially it was like a biologist. I think it was an anthropologist, and he was talking about how like Homo sapiens evolved like 250,000 years ago. We still have the same brain, right? And we have this fight or flight mechanism within our brain. And when stressful situations happen or crazy situations happen, that fight or flight response just goes off. But the difference between like now and then is when you fight or flight goes off, what do you think we did 250,000 years ago? It's in the name. We either fought something or we took off. Both of those things are physical exertion. So we have like mechanisms built in our mind that when stress goes high, cortisol goes high, adrenaline spikes, all of these like stressors go up because we see a threat. We have mechanisms that say we need to exert ourselves physically, either fighting or running or, a combination of both. And that is the mechanism to lower anxiety, lower stress, lower blood pressure, lower all of these like hormones that go off in our brains to make us ready to fight something off or run away. But if we're sitting in front of a computer all day, or if we're sitting in front of a whatever all day, they never go down. And we don't have to see a saber-toothed tiger jump out of the bush to see, threat. We get an email and say, threat. We see a newsreel, threat. We see a social media, threat. And we're constantly in this fight or flight, and none of us are running or fighting or exerting ourselves physically enough to lower those responses. So I found the people that are out there like really hammering themselves in the gym, like I see you doing, Paula, like Dio, it sounds like you're doing, like I do, just to de-stress. Those of us probably have a higher, I would say, feng shui with our biology than those who are just sitting around stressed out all the time.
So, Chris, I'm glad you kind of went a little bit deeper on that, because when you started with the fight, I'm like, are you just saying we just need to go and just lay hands on every and anybody?
Yeah, just go to the fight club? We don't talk about it.
I mean, I'm glad you brought that back to working out, and that we're not promoting just go beat people down when you're feeling stressed out. I was wondering where you were going with that, but you came back. You came back. Yeah, I mean, working out is definitely a stress reliever for me.
I also think it's resiliency, right? You mentioned earlier, Solo, about social media and how it's kind of like corrupted us. And it's just not resiliency, right? If you think about choices, right? If I want to look at a particular opinion, I can find that, right? I'm not challenging myself. My friends will tell me that I'm great if I ask them, right? Although my friends tell me that I'm not, right? Because I like that, right? I want the honest truth. But the idea here is that you can always find an easy way out. And I think we've become that way because it's comfortable, right? We don't want to be uncomfortable anymore. We don't have conversations that are uncomfortable because we don't want to do that. We don't want to have confrontation. But I think that's where we're losing kind of the battle here, is because, if I'm doing something wrong or you need something to tell me, I should be able to have a conversation with you and be civil about it. Right now people are afraid to just say anything, and that's causing stress in itself, right? Because you see something wrong happening, and you feel like, well, no one's going to catch my back, so I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. I'm just following orders, right? You hear a lot, I'm just doing what I'm told. We're not using our independent brain, and that's really causing suffering across the board.
Damn, that's good, man. Like they call it resistance training in the gym for a reason, because you're literally putting yourself on resistance, and it hurts and it sucks and it's painful, but you grow. But in these social media echo chambers, you don't have any resistance to your crazy thoughts. No one challenges you. No one pushes back. You just find your tribe and you start echoing your own, what, to each other. And then you just get angry and think that you're great and everyone else sucks. And then there's the division. So we have two withering, sides fighting against thinking that they're right because no one's putting any resistance on their crazy ideas. That's good, man. I didn't even think about that.
So let me ask y'all this. How stressed out are you all right now on a scale of 1 to 10? And what's your biggest stressor?
I always think about one of the greatest quotes from General Mattis. Look him up, Secretary of Defense, where they asked him, what keeps you up at night? And he says, nothing. I keep other people up at night.
Nice.
And I just love that quote. Yeah. And, I think for me, my stressors are probably more personal than it's like work related. But also like, I try not to let that just completely take over my well-being, right? And sometimes we forget that we have choices, right? And the choice is that I don't have to take this burden on, right? Some things you can leave behind. It's kind of a stoic mindset, but that's what I would say, right? So like right now, talking to you guys, my stress level is like at a 1, right? But that doesn't mean like in the next 13 seconds something could happen that's going to make me react quickly to bring my stress level up. But that's our problem again, is that we're designed right now to always have stress level at 10, and we don't have to be that way, right? I tell my son this all the time. Not everyone has to be a tough guy, right? There's plenty of tough guys in the world. There's plenty of that going on. Just be a cool guy, be a normal guy, right? Be a nice guy, because everyone wants to be a tough guy. But the world can't run on tough guys only. You need to have some tough people, but you also need to have nice people as well to balance out, those kind of things. So me, my stress level is low, but again, at any moment it can pop off to 100.
So I have this Garmin, right? So I have it like tells me my stress level at any point in time. It's like a body battery. Mm-hmm. I am currently at a 30 low stress out of 100. And my day was pretty chill, to be honest. And I got some pretty crazy news. You should see some of these spikes, but it was chill. I have so I've heard that anxiety is rumination on the future and depression is rumination on the past. If I had to choose my sin of choice, I would probably say I'm more prone to depression, ruminating on the past, than I am like scared or anxious or stressed out about the future. So even though I'm a 30, I would probably say my 30 comes from hoping, wishing, and thinking that I probably should have been a better dad today. A lot of that comes, like that's where a lot of my stress comes, like personally too, like Dio said. Not necessarily what's going to happen. I'm not going to be able to handle it. But like, damn, I could have been better. Dang, I shouldn't have raised my voice. Man, I should have told him, you know, to be a nice guy as opposed to a tough guy, right, Dio? So I usually, what keeps me up at night is being the best I could be for those two boys up there, because I know that if I'm not on point, I'm not on point a lot. I'm not, right? If I'm honest with myself, then I'm going to lead them astray. And that would probably be my biggest fear. So just to be vulnerable with you, Paula.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I say my stress level is pretty low right now. The thing that causes me probably the most stress is I'm an entrepreneur. So it's always the service to the client, right? Just making sure I'm always delivering. I'm on point. I'm not dropping balls, things like that. My kids are older. So though they are older, though, that still doesn't mean that they don't have a level of stress or add a level of stress to me either. Because they're in this adult thing and they're trying to figure it out and transition and all that, right? Typically, I know when my stress level is going to spike. There's certain environments that I go into that I already know that it's probably going to not be the best environment. So I prepare myself for that. And I still try and keep my stress level low as much as possible. But to Theo's point, you can go to 0 to 100 in no time. So it just depends on the situation. But there's something that both of you all brought up that I think is a good segue into. We talked a lot about the different pressures and we talked about a lot of different stressors. We talked about stress, but both of you are pretty centered on who you are. So when did you get to a point when you knew your value and your worth and who you are? Because believe it or not, a lot of people struggle with boundaries, knowing their worth, knowing what to put up with, what not to put up with. And a lot of people don't want to disappoint other people or people pleasers. And a lot of that goes hand in hand with stress, right? Because you're stressing yourself out. Dio, you mentioned you don't take on all of those burdens and all that baggage, right? You leave all that. Right.
I try not to. I mean, I think one of the things for me, in my lifetime or my career at this point, is imposter syndrome, right? We all have imposter syndrome. You're in a room and you kind of look around, you're like, I really belong here, right?
Yeah.
When decisions are made, you're making these critical decisions, you're like, am I making the right choices? Should I even be here? Like, I know I failed a test back in right now. They knew this, they wouldn't have me in this room. But also I come back to, you're there for a reason, right? Like, like I said, my education is how I've gotten to a lot of great places, but also, street smarts is just as good sometimes as college smarts as well, right? But, to answer your question about being centered, it's just like, here I am, right? I know who I am. I know what I can do. I can only be who I am. And, if you want to be somebody else, then I can't help you, right? I'm kind of stuck in my ways, right, wrong, or indifferent. So to me, I think that's important, because I know that going into a room, right? I'm giving you exactly what I have to give. And if I can't give you that, then I will definitely, hey, I can't do that, right? I'm not capable of doing that. I'm not great at math, right? I'm not an engineer. You don't want me to build you a house. It's going to fall down, right? Yeah. But other things that I know that I can do, I will definitely help. Or if I need to learn it, I'll do that. But it's a vulnerability. Again, I think everyone has imposter syndrome. We don't say it out loud, and I'll say it. Like sometimes, again, I'm in a position of great responsibility, and sometimes I wonder, like, how did I get here? But I got here because I worked hard to get here.
Yeah,
that's how I look at it.
I don't know how it looks on the audience's screen, but I got Paula on one side, Dio on the other side, and I'm like, how the hell did I get here? Okay, I'm surrounded by you two. No, I'm serious. Like, I got the imposter syndrome hard, Dio. So you're speaking my language. And I think it's natural. Like, I tell my wife this all the time because she has, I would say, imposter mom syndrome. I wish I was better. I could have done better. I want to do this. And she is fantastic. And I tell her, bad moms don't say those things. Like, they're not asking, how can I do better? And I wish I could have done better. Like, they're not worried about those things. So maybe our imposter syndrome is proof that maybe we should be in the room, to your point. Me personally, like, my centeredness comes from my complete understanding of how much of a unqualified person I am. I fully know that I am unqualified to be in most rooms that I'm in, but I fully agree that God has called me to be there anyway. I might not be qualified, but I am called. And I think that I'm in good like company, like murderers like, Moses or David, or cowards like Gideon, who had big roles to fill and couldn't do it on their own. So I feel like the only reason why I'm able to have a steady sense of who I am is less about who I am and more of whose I am in my faith, and understanding it's like, look, I know that I'm not qualified, but I am called. And if I'm called to do something that I know that I can't do, God's going to have to do it for me. And God had already went before me and he could do it. So I rely on that faith to keep me centered and keep me grounded.
No, that's pretty deep. I agree with that. I think, Gio, you bring up a good point about imposter syndrome. So as much as I do a lot of coaching, that does come up, and that is a hindrance. I mean, that stops a lot of people. That limiting belief right there stops a lot of people from doing what they're supposed to do. And imposter syndrome will try to make you doubt your value, but your worth was never up for negotiation.
Oh,
so for me, don't get it twisted. I have imposter syndrome too. There are sometimes I walk on stages where I'm like, how the heck did I get on this stage, right? And then you get up there and then you realize why you were put on that stage after the fact, after you go through everything. And so that, to me, somebody said to me, a mentor said to me, when you have thoughts like that, it's because you care. It's about the level of care and concern that you have for the people that you are about to impact. And I have to agree with that, right? I have to agree with, sometimes we're our worst critic and we're hardest on ourselves, but we have to get over that. But then you also have to, a lot of people don't do self-reflection and self-introspection, so they really don't figure out the root causes of what's causing that imposter syndrome to begin with. And I think that's a problem too, because if you can't figure out why are you feeling that way, or why are those thoughts coming up, or the pattern of when those thoughts come up, they will continue to potentially hinder you for what you need to do. And that can actually hurt your decision making as well, because you're not thinking as clearly, right? And so a lot of people out here are walking around and they don't know who they are and what their worth is. They have no boundaries set whatsoever. And then if they do set a boundary and somebody doesn't like it, or somebody doesn't honor that boundary, then they want to change it. And again, that goes back to knowing your worth, right? And you both know me. So, Sundays are my days. I just don't like to be bothered. I'm pretty much grinding and hustling pretty hard 6 days a week. You have me for 6 days. I just asked for one day. And some of y'all still trying to put meetings on my calendar, still trying to call me. I literally have to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. There's only certain people who get through on my phone on Sunday. I literally have to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I cannot be around 24/7, because at the end of the day, I need my cup filled up too. I need to re-energize. I cannot be everything to everyone all the time. And I used to think I could. And I quickly began to realize I can't, because that's when you get stressed out and you have the burnout and whatnot. And I got to the point that if people don't respect my boundaries, then are you really my friend?
That's a good point.
And I don't know, what are some boundaries y'all have? That's just one of mine. I got many.
If I go back, I learned a mantra in the military. So you can't live forever, right? Like, no one's living forever, right? So you got to take a leap. You got to go to things that are, dangerous situations, because eventually you're going to go, and you need to experience things. So I've always lived by that, right? I've been in situations, especially my last job, when storms would come in, tornadoes, sitting in the middle of stuff. And I'm like, well, you can't live forever, right? Like, we got to figure this out. So that's kind of how that's been a mantra. It's always in my mind, right? You gotta live your life. You're here for a reason. Like Solo said, here for a reason. Whatever that reason is, like, you gotta live through it, right? Because one day you're not going to be here, right? And you want to have a wasted life. And I think about, I don't know if you guys I love David Goggins probably more than I need to. He's those things that people find to be just absolutely psychotic. But he said something that always resonates with me, and it's I'm paraphrasing this, but when you go to the pearly gates and they open this book, and the book talks about your life and says, okay, you were supposed to be this, 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 and this, but you chose to do this, this, this instead, right? Like, so you didn't live a full life. And I kind of feel like I don't want to be that way. Like, I want to spend my body, do things that experience things, be a part of things, have legacies, so that one day when I'm no longer here, like I had an impact on the world, right? I think that's very important. And I'm sorry, Paul, you said something what was the question you asked? I apologize.
What boundaries do you have that's like non-negotiable? You've just realized over life that this is just a boundary you need to set, and people just need to honor that.
I just think I'm also a Sunday person. Like, usually the weekends, personally, I like to just disappear into the ether and come back out again, just because I need that break. But also like the do not disturb or sleep mode, right? So for example, my phone, I have a sleep mode that I turn on at night. And if you're not in the sleep mode category, you're not getting through. Because I've given you, to Paula's point, I've given you from like 7 a.m. to like 10:30 at night to reach me. You don't need to call me at 10:31. Right?
Yeah.
Unless it's something that's important, that's different, but I need that time to myself so I can, recharge and resurface. But also, like, the boundary of, hey, this is too far, right? Like, we're cool here, but we're not cool there, right? Like, putting people in that kind of categories is important too, because then you're not overextending yourself. You can't be everyone's friend. You can try your best, but at the end of the day, we have acquaintance categories. We have like people that we know at work categories. We have friends. We have best friends and family. And I try to do that, right? Like, so I put people in those categories. Now, they may think that we're best friends or not, right? But like, for me, because if I'm going to give you my all as a friend or something more than a friend, like, then I need to give you that energy. And if I don't have that kind of time, I'm not, you should know that, right? Like, I'm terrible at text messages on purpose because I need time to myself. If you text me, I'll get back to you if you're somebody. But I'll be honest with you, I have unread text messages, like 100 something, that I probably make people's head scream. But they're not important. Like, I got to get to them as I can. Or I'll call you, right? I'm a caller. That's my boundary. I don't like to text, I like to call. I'll give you a call. So that's how I look at it. Communications wise, that's how I put up my boundaries.
That's awesome. I'm going to take this two ways. First one, I use my phone in a way that drives most people crazy. My mom, ask my wife, ask anybody. My phone is always on Do Not Disturb. My phone doesn't ding, it doesn't bell, it doesn't whistle. My phone does not get my attention. My phone is not for people to be able to ring or throw up a flag or whatever and say, hey, Solo, whatever you're doing, look over here. I need your text. I need your call. I need your ding. I need your whistle. It doesn't do that. It's silent. My phone is only for, I got a gap in whatever I'm doing. I'm bored. Let me see what's going on now. Missed calls, missed texts. Why didn't you hit me back? Why didn't you back? And over the course of the last, 2 decades, my loved ones have gotten used to it. Some of them still hate me for it. But I truly think that that's a boundary that I need. I cannot have something tethered to my hip that's always pulling me out of the immersion I am in life. I can't do it. I don't work that way. I'm too ADHD. I'm too all over the place anyway. I need to focus. But I also think about boundaries in a way of, Dio, to what you said. Like, life's too short. Get out there and do something dangerous. Put yourself under some resistance, under some load. Like, you kind of have to know what your boundaries are. And the only way to know your boundaries is to, like, stretch them. Like, go outside of them. I don't think that I can do this, but I'm going to go for it anyway. This is too big for me, but I'm going to try it anyway. This is too large, but I'm going to go for it anyway. And I feel like in those fearful times where it's like, this is too much, but I'm going to go for it anyway, you find where your boundary is, and then your boundary just expands just a little bit. You just get a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And if I'm honest, the worst of times, the times that were the toughest, the times that I thought I was going to cave or I was going to fail, these stressors, right, that we're talking about here, that we would like to say, God, take them away. Those are like the things that have really instilled in me the most confidence in who I am. Those are like the voices that like shout against the imposter syndrome. It's like, what do you mean you can't do this? Remember when you went up against this before and you crushed it? Yeah, that's true. But what happened with it here? Yeah, but then you did that. Like, you need stressors, you need obstacles, you need bad guys. Like, Superman needs a bad guy to go against, to stretch, and to really be a hero, right? Like, you wouldn't be a hero without the anti-hero. So I really do think that kind of like the negative, the bad, the stress, the stuff that we're talking about, there's a healthy amount of it that you need in your life to really stretch those boundaries and become bigger. You need that resistance at times.
Yeah, I think Judy would agree with you.
What's that?
No learning. Yeah, she says no learning happens in the comfort zone.
Sometimes I don't want to learn though, okay? I be learning too much sometimes, all right? You know, sometimes I just want a Saturday, Sunday. Like you said, I just want to disappear into the ether and I don't want to learn a thing. And you need that space to just recover. So I think that it's a balance. It's like battlefield to, I don't know.
So why do you think people have a problem or struggle to say no? I don't anymore. I don't have any issue saying no anymore. You still have an issue saying no, Solo?
Yeah, for sure.
I don't mind saying no.
I think well, to your point, I will say that, and I'm glad that it kind of spawned in the whole knowing your worth, because I do know that a lot of the reason why I haven't been able to say no in the past is because I didn't know my worth. So I think that I've overcome that. Knowing that my time is valuable, understanding that with every yes I give, that's a no to something else. Knowing that there's going to come a point in time where I'm so overloaded that I'm ineffective and I can't truly do the things that matter. So I think I'm over that. But still, I don't know why I'm just a knee-jerk yes sayer. Y'all need to get me right. Like, I just knee-jerk, yeah. And then I'm like, oh, and then I feel bad because I want to do what I say I'm going to do.
Chris, you're in your 30s still, right?
I'm 40. I've turned 41.
Oh, it's gonna change.
I ain't no spring chicken.
It's gonna change. The 40s hit different and the 50s hit different. I'm not 50 yet, but the 40s hit different. It's going to change.
Okay. Yeah, so I would say for me, COVID is what changed me to say no more, because I knew I did a lot of things before COVID. Go to people's houses, hung out with them, and I'm like, I don't want to be here, but they asked me to come here, right? Like, so I have to do it. And so, like, to your point, so like, I had something else to do, but I was like, well, they invited me, so I have to go. And then when COVID hit, it was like, wait a minute, like, no one can do anything, right? And I'm okay with this. So, because then I have more time. So now I'm more of a no than, I mean, people will say, hey, let's do something this weekend. I'm like, no, right? I got obligations. And it's okay to say no, because again, it's self-preservation, right? Because like you said, you can't be everyone's everything.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes you just have to tell people, I'm sorry, I can't make it tonight because of blank. I love to get with you another time. But why shortchange yourself or your family or whatever you're doing because someone's throwing a party? Well, there'll be another party again, but will be another time you'll have time with your family, right? Or your friend, right? That you're really close with. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I look to, So again, it goes back to that category, right? If you're in the category of acquaintance, then I'm going to probably say no more. If you're in a category of like a friend or more, then I'm going to probably take more time to do that, because I know that's a meaningful visit, right? Something that it's a meaningful time, and it's not just like an empty, let's go to the bar and have a beer. That's it's great, but what am I sacrificing for that 15 minutes with someone that I'm like, I don't really want to go anyway? So
it's a good point.
So Chris, what I would say to you to build that courage to say no, every no rooted in self-respect is an act of power. So you don't lose opportunities when you honor your worth, you attract alignment. So you no longer bend for acceptance, you rise for authenticity. You really don't want to say yes. You're just saying it because you just want to be nice, right? So you're not even being your true authentic self. Yeah. Right? Just say no. Just say no.
And maybe Dio goes back to what you suggested, right? Like when you know what hits, you go back to the level of your training. So like, did you prepare for the no? And I've like prepared a no statement that I need to practice more. It's my heart says yes, but the unfortunate reality of my schedule is unfortunately no. I've been practicing that, but for whatever reason, it just don't come out. So Paul, I think that you're right. I just need to own that authenticity and just say, no, can't make it. Don't want to make it. have other things going on right now that unfortunately conflict with the ask. So my answer is no.
Yeah, and it's just not worth the stress, right? And sometimes I had a situation on Friday where I had to cancel stuff that I was supposed to do on Friday because I just wasn't feeling well, right? It pained me to do it, but what's the point of me trying to do something that I can't physically do? I mean, that doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help the group that I was going to. So even though it's hard for me to bow out of a commitment, if it's needed, it's just needed to be done. And then get rid of all the shame and guilt that comes after that. There's no shame and guilt in saying no. Yeah. No, I just can't do it. And people will try and guilt trip you. Family is great for that. Or close friends, they'll try and guilt trip you. But remember when? Yeah, that was then. This is now. Right. So
I also think, you need to still know at a young age, because as you get older, you get situations that are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I really am saying no, but the person keeps pushing. You're like, okay, I'll do that because you keep pressuring me, instead of just being like, it's a solid no. Like, it's not gonna happen, right? Like, and I think as we go on, as I said earlier about resiliency and resistance and getting different ideas, that's what we're losing, is that ability to say no without having that guilt, right? I don't say no to every single thing, right? I'm not like some sort of tyrant that's like, no. But at the same time, like, if it's important, I'll make time, right? But sometimes I can't make time, and it's okay, even if it's something that I want to do. Sometimes, life happens, work happens. But we have to be willing to say no and be uncomfortable with it, right? And if the person truly understands, they'll be like, yeah, I get it. I understand, right? Now, like, well, if you don't do this, then I never see you. Well, that's the poor attitude to have, right? So that's something you need to for that person to figure out, not you.
That really resonates with me, Dio, because I am, as admitted earlier, really focused on being the best father I can be. And if I can't say no to stupid commitments that I don't want to do, how am I going to expect him to say no to the joint, or no to the, going out to the club, or no to drinking and driving? Like, I expect them to say no. So I need to stand in my nose. I also think that a lot of folks have a problem with the no muscle. And what I've seen more often than not is these like people that are yes people, they don't just like show up to everything. They say yes and then they bail. And I feel like yes and bailers are just folks that are just, you're not a person of your word. Now your yes means no and your no means yes. And who knows what yes and no means when it comes out of your mouth, because you're just saying what people want to hear and then doing something totally different. So I also think that saying no is guarding your integrity. Because I know when I say yes to something, I'm going to do it. And when I say no to things, it's because when I say yes to things, I'm going to do it. And if I say yes to everything, I'm not going to be able to do that.
Let me make a defense of bailers. I'm a bailer, right? Like, I'll go to.
Are you a bailer? I'm a bailer sometimes too, bro.
I'll go somewhere and they'll be like, this ain't popping, and I'll disappear, right? Because sometimes, again, you go to a situation like, why am I here, right? No one's like, I'm not enjoying myself, or maybe the crowd is not what you expect it to be, or it might be some trouble. It's like, it's okay to be like, I'm out, right? Like, people are like, oh, I'll stay. It's like, no, like, you've come in, you've done what you had to do, you spend time, but if you want to go, you should be able to go. Like, you should be like pressured to stay, right? Now, if it's like, a life event, you should probably stick around for that. But, like, I am someone that's just like, I'm out. Right, I've done that many times.
But that's like an integrity bailer. I'm talking about the people that don't even show. Oh, I'll be there, and they don't.
Yeah.
You're an integrity bailer. That's respect.
No, I'm a person that's like, all right, we're good, right? Like, I'm good, man. Because it goes back to it, right? Like, ultimately, I think for both sides, right? Like, being there for the individual and vice versa. But there are times you're like, I just gotta go. Like, this is not. I'm not comfortable in a situation. Like, it's okay to leave, right? Or sometimes you book yourself up. Like, I can stop by for a minute, right? I want to pay my respects, but I got to go do. I'm got to go over and do something else. You shouldn't feel bad about that, because at least you made a commitment to go to that particular spot. So that's kind of my thought too. Like, even when you go somewhere, like, I'm not feeling this, you should be able to say, I'm leaving. Like, it's time for me to go. and not feel like, you're letting somebody down, because again, you have one life to live and very little time. And unfortunately, none of us have timers on our bodies to tell us you got 6 days left, you got 4 days left, you got 45 days left. Like, so you got to live to the fullest. And for your children, I've kids myself, right? Like being there when I can, like trying to give them, lessons of life, the things that I've seen, things I've experienced. But also kids don't listen, right? Because you don't really understand. My dad used to tell me things. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Now as a dad, I'm like, man, he was right? But again, those times are really, really important.
So we got something from the audience, y'all. We got a comment. Anybody want to take this comment? Any words? This is probably a good one to give some words of advice on. And this is when we're talking about the no and the saying no and not saying yes to everything. So this is truly hard for those of us that are dedicated and take pride in who we are. What would be your thoughts to that?
I think you could think. It's not about. I'm saying, like, don't take pride and be dedicated to what you do. I think that sometimes we have to also, again, have self-preservation for us, right? Because we can't be our best. We can't be our best if we're constantly dispensing energy to things that are not important, right? So I think for this particular individual, right, I imagine like they do a lot of great things, have done a lot of historical things in their life, right? But you have to also give yourself a little bit of grace in order to continue to take pride in what you do. I'm not saying cut corners and be like, don't do anything, but also take that time to say, all right, I need to take a break. I need to take some time just to recharge, because you're no good to anybody if you're running on low batteries, right? That's where sometimes pride can take ego. Your ego gets in the way, and then your ego makes mistakes. So, I think you can be dedicated and have pride in what you do, but you also got to give yourself some grace.
I agree. I think that there are folks out there, and my wife's one of them, that are so dedicated to others, and they probably take a lot of pride in that dedication, like that love, that sacrifice. And I think that it's a beautiful thing. But I also think that, to your point, if your battery's on low, you ain't good for anybody. Like, what does the flight attendant tell you at the beginning of every safety video? Like, please, in the event of an emergency, oxygen mask will be lowered from the overhead compartment. Please put on your own oxygen mask before attempting to assist others. They don't tell you that because they want you to be selfish. They tell you that because they know that if you're out there trying to be hero and helping everybody out, you're going to asphyxiate yourself before you even get to the second person. So now you're dead when you could have had your own oxygen mask on and helped 7, 8, 9, 10 people. And now you're a true hero. Now you're truly dedicated in serving others. So I think that there's a certain amount of selfless selfishness that is required if you are one of those people that really do pour into others. Like, you have to be selfish to recharge, to Dio's point, so you can be selfless and dedicated to the people that you love. Like, I have to say no to these things so I can say yes to all this other stuff. Like, you have to balance it. You can't just be yes all the time, or you'll just run dry and asphyxiate yourself before.
If I could make another point, it's like, think about, training, right? So law enforcement training, whatever the case may be, you go through years and years of training for that one moment where something could go bad, right? You don't just go in there kind of willy-nilly. So, for that, again, it's taking that time to, taking that moment, right? Because you've worked so hard to get to this point. Michael Jordan has missed like 13,000 shots, right? Everybody thinks Michael Jordan hit every single shot. He didn't. He lost more games than he won it sometimes, right? But the idea here, again, is like taking that time to retool, refocus, rephrase. Like, okay, here's what's going right, here's what's going wrong. Because, again, you can't run 48 hours straight and still be making the same decisions as, hour one. So you got to take that time for yourself.
True. There's also this, I forget what it's called. I think it might be the Pygmalion effect. I don't know. What's up?
Pygmalion. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's like where like you go hard and then your performance drops off and you take a break and then you go hard again. Like, there's this like natural breaks, and some people just grind for grind's sake, and they're literally just grinding and getting nothing done, but they take pride in that grind. And I think that there's a certain amount of crazy in that. Like, what did Abraham Lincoln say? If I had 5 hours to cut down a tree, I'd spend the first 4 hours sharpening my axe or something like that. I don't know who said it, but I think it's a good analogy. Like, you have to sharpen your saw. You have to rest. You have to recover. Going back to the gym analogy, a lot of us think that we grow that muscle and that strength in the gym when we're in there beasting it, and we don't. We're breaking down tissue. We're under stress. We build the muscle, we grow when we're sitting in the bed, when we're watching Netflix, when we're chilling back and eating, when we're actually resting. That's when the growth actually happens. You have to give your body, your mind, your spirit, your soul that time to rest so it grows and those boundaries expand.
I 100% agree. Do y'all believe we're coming up on time already?
Is it? How long have we been talking?
We've been going for a good 56.
Oh, man.
We've been going for a good 56. But I think this is a good time to wrap it up and go into, just ending thoughts. So just some final thoughts that I have. I'm going to kick it off first, but I'm going to...
You're cutting out a little bit, Paula. I think the background music's hating on you. It's smooth.
Is it hating on me? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, yeah.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for the call out.
I got you.
Everything sounds great on my side. Yeah, thanks for the call out. So the final thoughts that I have is we talked about turning pressure into power, right? So pressure doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to define you. So when you know your worth, every ounce of pressure becomes fuel for your purpose. So y'all know I'm all about purpose. So I'm about that, right? You want to lead from the inside out. When stress knocks, remember, power starts within. So you don't need to prove your worth. You just need to walk in it. And that's how you turn pressure into power. So today, just take a deep breath, let go of the weight of proving and performing. You are not your stress. You are strength. You are purpose and undeniably worthy. So lead from that place and let's keep it real. Just like we say, keeping you wise by keeping it real always, right? Couple of things. You want to stay connected with Dio. Here is his information. He already told you he's nowhere on social media. So you're not going to find him unless you find him on LinkedIn. You find him on LinkedIn, you can email, but that's about as much as you're going to get. Chris is also not on social media that much. He's only on LinkedIn. Chris got off of social media a few years ago. And so it's mostly if you want to get to from a social media standpoint, you're going to have to come through me. That's how that's going to have to work. Another thing that I want to mention is that we have another pod coming up.
Oh,
yeah, we got another podcast coming up. Our good friend here, Dio, is going to be doing a podcast called True Blue Talks. And Dio, you want to tell a little bit about what your vision is or what you're thinking your topics will be for this podcast that I will be co-hosting with you?
I'm excited. Go Mob, Blue Party, all the stuff. Let's go. Let's go. It's going to be fantastic. I'm really excited to kick this off. So, yeah, get some guests. I actually know a guest probably online right now we could bring in to talk about a lot of different things. So I'm excited to be a part of this family here. I feel like I'm joining the family. So thank you.
Yes, we have a new podcaster coming in. I remember when Chris wanted to talk to me years ago about just getting out there and speaking a little bit more. And we started this podcast and we've been going strong. This year has been a little rough, but we've been going strong since then. So who knows where that will lead. And with that also, should probably also put up here our social. This is how you can get to us. A lot of this is getting to me, obviously, but this is how you can get to us. We do have a potential pod lined up in December. I'm just confirming a date. And so we'll have a good podcast coming in. And then the True Blue Talks will be launching in January. So all of that, all of this. Got some exciting stuff coming on in 2026. 2026 is going to be a year of shift. That's what I keep saying.
Word, Paula? You always got a word.
I do, right? I always have a word. Right now, I don't have a word. I have a theme, though. I do have a theme.
Shift.
We're going to be rich in 26.
I like it.
And rich doesn't always mean money. Think about that. You could be rich in many different ways. So right. I don't know how rich is going to show up for everybody, but that's my theme for 26. I
am believing that rich in money is part of your rich in 26 too, though. Okay. Can I believe that for you?
Yeah, you can. Please do.
I got you.
Please do. I'll take it all. Take it all. I will take it all. I will take it all. Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you to take us out.
That was beautiful. I don't really have any closing remarks or thoughts. What you just said at the very end there really spoke to my soul. And I'm actually going to replay this immediately after it hits. But thank you, everyone. I hope y'all enjoyed the episode. Thank you for engaging. Those of you who asked questions, thank you for listening. Let's keep those conversations going. Please subscribe to the channels, all of Paula's channels. Turn on the notifications. You know that all the likes and all the comments and all the bells and the whistles and the dings help the algorithm. So help us out. Hit the subscribe. In addition, please leave as many comments as humanly possible. Even if it's that solo dude is a goofy looking, it all helps the algorithm. Okay? Drop it. And remember, for each one, reach one and teach one. When you know better, you do better. So let's continue to do better. And Dio, thank you for joining us today, sir.
I appreciate it.
Words.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. It's a wrap. See you next month.